What's going on, folks? And if you are hearing this, you are one of the privileged few that gets to hear the test. We're going to do this as a test kind of privately, but we decided, we're going to do this and we're going to put it out there on the new network. And this is one of the shows that I'm super excited about. You know, we have the mess around. The pick'em will be coming. We are back on Mancini on Tuesday for the Pigskin preview, and really excited about the year coming up. But this show is two of my favorite people to work with over the past year and a half. And I thought, why not give the two coaches their own deal? Because they play so well off each other, and usually they're a guest or there's groups of people, you know, talking in and cutting them off. And I thought, why not just let them run, let them roll? So if you're hearing this, you are hearing the very first coaches edition of the Mess Around. And I'm joined by Coach Christopher Taylor, who just got off his drive time show live in Los Angeles for all you guys coming home on that wonderful traffic on the 101, the 405, 10, and all that. And, of course, we have the mental coach, Shayne McGowan, coming from up in Knucklehead, up in Canada, bringing us the mental side of sports and all of his Raiders nonsense. So,
you're starting already on me, man?
Yeah,
Come on.
I'm looking at the screen, and your avatar is a Raider logo. So every time you talk, like, it pops at me. Raider. So
Bam.
I gotta say something. So honestly, as much fun as we're having to start off with, we want to start on something a little more serious, and then we'll get to the funny stuff. A coach, and I was just saying off air before we got on, I think is probably the most underrated coach in modern sports history. Modern sports would be the history. The modern sports would be Popovich, and the passing of his wife, even though it was expected, it's still a blow. And a lot of the controversy that's going on, and you have two of the best modern coaches in Belichick and Popovich, both going through kind of I'm going to let the coaches talk about it. So we're going to start with Coach Christopher, and then you guys just go ahead and say what you think about what's going on. Is it a generational thing? Is it just nonsense? Is it media, or have they coached too long?
Well, first, thanks, Chris, for the opportunity, brother, and thank you, Coach Shayne, for entertaining. Start kicking off a show with a scrub, a newbie as myself. But again, thank you guys for this opportunity. And our prayers go out to the Popovich family and to Coach Pop. And, one of the most respected coaches in the league. And one of the things I admire about Coach Pop is not only do the players respect him, but in most cases, he has a voice. And he doesn't mind using his platform to talk on matters let's just say matters that matter. He's one of the guys that he'll be the first one to support a player or to support a cause that's positive, especially when it is relevant and is real. And so, and I know he's hurt. And I can't imagine what it would feel like to have to, say goodbye to someone you've been with so long. So, our prayers go out to Pop. Coach Shayne?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, all the prayers and everybody around the league and even other sports naturally are going to give this huge support, huge hug to the family and everything like that for the loss of his wife, who was battling a cancer there like that. And I mean, again, you're dealing with a coach who is one of the most popular men in the business out there. He's a guy that you want to play for, because he's that good at what he does. He knows how to bring players in and create an atmosphere that you want to play on that organization. And the man has been going through an awful lot right now with everything. And he's still going through an awful lot again, too, with turmoil on his team, you know what I mean, with everything like that. But, I mean, a big shout out to all the players in the NBA that did send their condolences to him, that are really most respected men in the league, as well as everybody like that, and other players from other sports too. I mean, it's a huge thing. So, but like I said, if we're going to talk now also about the Spurs, I mean, let's talk a little bit about what the heck's going on in there on that bench there, Coach. I mean, you got a guy here does he want to play or does he want to just sit? What's his goal? What is his goal is what I'm getting at.
I should just sit back because Shayne read my mind. I was just about to set up this conversation about Coach, why don't you explain what's going on? And Coach Shayne read my
Yeah.
mind. So why don't you explain just a little bit for the people out there besides just like Kawhi, exactly what's going on with the controversy and then kind of what you feel about it. Then we'll go back to Coach Shayne.
Well, let's go back a little bit because Kawhi Leonard is just the most recent of the superstars, quote unquote, to have a problem with something that Pop is doing or the style of play that's going on with the Spurs. Remember, after they signed LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi, the ball still went through Kawhi's hands, and he was superstar. And then LaMarcus Aldridge was having a pity party and pouting and talking about he wanted to leave the team, and Popovich had to, put that fire out. And then after Kawhi gets hurt, no longer is LaMarcus talking about wanting to be traded, but now Kawhi is upset, and Popovich has been saying a lot of us behind the injury that Kawhi has had. A lot of people feel like he can come back sooner than he's chosen to, and he feels like he doesn't want to hurt his bottom line, which is his opportunity to make money. He doesn't want to create a situation for himself to where he'll be like Isaiah Thomas and miss out on millions because of trying to come back from an injury too soon.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely correct. Okay, so we looked at that. Everybody gets the rundown exactly, kind of what's going on. Now, here comes the question, though: is there too many egos in this room of playing? Let's pass the ball and let's score together and let's win together, or is it more of me attitudes out there that's creating a lot of havoc in that locker room too? And you got to realize is that you look at all these teams that are in the NBA right now and say, okay, who's got some stars on there that can get along? Why can we not do the same thing here too? So I got a feeling we got a little bit more of a clash amongst egos, amongst guys like this, that I don't know what your performance bonuses are either when it comes to the assists, the shots, everything like that, because we all know that's all involved somehow too. You know what I mean? Right. And everybody wants to get that next big paycheck too. That's going to be coming up for contract negotiations, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Now, though, is that you got guys here that, and I think this is what really hurts the team itself, as well as, and we're forgetting about this, and I always bring this up, is what about the other players on that team, too? You got guys on that team that are trying to make a living, but they're having a hard time doing it and getting further and further because we got two guys here that are bickering at each other, and it's just not working. You know what I mean? And to me, now you're putting yourself above the rest of the team. That's where I start having a bit of a problem with some of these guys in that.
And I would say that I don't think that there was initially a problem, because initially, if there was any issue with Kawhi, he's been mostly quiet. But since, in fact, it hasn't been himself that has been the one speaking out, but he's changed his agent. In fact, his uncle is now his agent. And sometimes when people are close to you, as far as family members are concerned, then they're ideal of your worth and your value and how they manage you and how they feel you should approach is different than a person who doesn't know you, doesn't have that intimate relationship with you. And any one of my family members is going to think I'm the best thing since sliced pie.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of that is starting to come into play, and the difference of management from Kawhi's team and doesn't coincide with what Popovich believes. And he's saying, hey, if they don't want to do this, then why rush back? Show them how you can really hurt the team. And I'm afraid I'm agreeing with you, Coach Shayne, that there's no room for that. But with every team,
that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah,
though.
It's the nature
of the beast at times.
Hey, Coach Shayne. Hey, Coach Shayne. Talking about that real quick, and then we'll let you start this off since you're the mental guy, and then Chris can kind of close. Coach Christopher can close this subject out. From the mental side, is it just coincidence that Pop and Belichick are having the same problem at the same time, or is it a symptom of the modern day athlete and what's going on right now?
Oh, I think you're looking at modern day athletes now. I mean, look at you got you got two different sports.
We would never think about these kind of problems happening to those two coaches for the last 15, 20 years, right?
That's correct. But like I said, is nowadays everything has changed. everybody wants to be in the league longer. Everybody wants to be doing more and more, and they're working. You got every guru coming out of the closet to say, hey, man, get on my program because you're just going to last another 5 more years, right? And no offense, but you've also got people like myself who are also helping these athletes stay in the game longer by staying focused, high energy, a lot of confidence, et cetera, et cetera. So like I said, there's a lot of things nowadays that you didn't have back then. So you're right with Belichick and his problems that he's having with Brady as well as with Gronk and et cetera, compared to also what Papa is having there with the guys on that team too. So you're right, it is, and you're going to see, I think, in the next probably this year too, in all these sports, you're going to see more and more of this stuff happening as well, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of the athletes nowadays have been given privilege, and they come into the sport, they come into the professional ranks, even in the amateur ranks, with a sense of entitlement, as if they deserve without even showing improving. And
so, they're owed. They feel they're owed.
And they feel that, and they come in as rookies with a veteran mindset, and in some cases, it's not bad to think like a vet. But at the same time, you got to understand, you got to earn the respect of a veteran.
And that's the biggest thing right there. You nailed that one right there. Is that where's that respect coming in to get that veteran status? You know what I mean? Play like a vet, but you got to be rookie smart.
And I was going to say, think about this. Kobe Bryant, when he came into the league, everybody thinks, oh, Kobe was greatest. They don't understand how many years he came off the bench first couple of years, only getting 8 minutes, 10 minutes a game and stuff like that. Because, listen, we know what you did in high school, but you have to prove yourself here. And quite naturally, he worked hard and he proved it, and he had that mindset. But when you think about the difference in the dynamics of guys versus today's athlete versus yesterday's athlete, you look at the fact, how many teams or how many players can you say have the loyalty that they once had to where I'm only going to play for one team? How many Reggie Millers? How many Kobe Bryant? Well, I won't say Kobe Bryant because Kobe Bryant threatened to leave, but your Reggie Millers and Larry Birds, and let's talk about those guys. Magic Johnson's, guys who came in with a team and they stuck with a team. It's loyalty. That loyalty is no longer there. And what's happening is you're having coaches bumping egos with these prima donna athletes because these athletes don't want to put in the work or feel like they are how do you say it? They're exempt from abiding by the other rules that have been in place before they became members of the team.
All right. Well, taking that question, 1 minute answers. Would you agree with the fact that the teams and the management have made these players not think about loyalty anymore because of the fact that the teams aren't loyal anymore, and they've kind of created that it's a business? You're going to get moved. You're going to get traded. You're going to find out on Twitter or on ESPN that you were traded while you're out with your family celebrating. You're going to find out you just got cut. Is it all just the new players, or is it the way that the new teams and the new CBAs are treating their players? I'm going to give you just a quick 1 minute answer, Coach Shayne, and then Coach Christopher, and then I'm gonna jump back on something you said. I'm gonna turn it back on you, Christopher, about your own rant. So why don't we answer the first question first, Coach Shayne? Is it all the players' fault, or is it the culture that this is all business? You are a chess piece kind of culture the owners and GMs are creating.
You better know that when you come into the pros, you are a chess piece. And I think that's how it came when a guy like Wayne Gretzky got traded way back then from Edmonton Oilers to the LA Kings. And it was for money, over $20 million at that time. That was big money. The number one man in the professional sport of hockey got traded, and nobody ever thought would happen. You then realize that this is an open door for every athlete in every sport.
And it's a business. That's what you got to realize. It's a business. Ultimately, every owner is going to do what's best for their bottom line. If they can make money, by all means, they will. Nobody wants to go in business to lose money. And so if you approach pro sports with the mindset of understanding that it is a business, and sometimes they may not like your service, and if they don't like your service, they will cut you. And that's just the nature of the beast. So, but there is a fine line, I will say, because in the respect, we have the expectation for the athletes, and even as a casual fan, we have expectations of the athlete to be loyal to the team, but we don't have the same, I guess, ideals about the team being loyal to the athlete. So
yeah, and that's what I was trying to get to, and I think that people talk about that, but you remember back in the days, teams wouldn't let players get out of the building. They wouldn't dream, in the 70s, Roger Staubach, any of the Steel Curtain, Madden, those guys, maybe Al Davis, but they wouldn't have dreamed of talking to a news outlet before they talk to the player. You know what I mean? Like that stuff didn't happen, and the fact that they are treated so disposable. I think just not saying that your point about the players isn't correct, and it is definitely a business. I was just pointing out the juxtaposition of, if you look at like the 70s, like most of the players, and before that obviously, and even up into the 80s, up until free agency came in, that if a player was a good player, that's the team you're gonna finish with, unless you go out like O'Harris or someone like who wants to play that last year.
Not if you're Al Davis. Al Davis made his statements by getting rid of Marcus Allen. As soon as
I said that. Maybe not the Raiders. I changed my mind on that one.
And the biggest thing about that was this, is that in Al Davis's mind, if you felt you were bigger than the Raiders, you had no job on the Raiders team. You know what I mean?
Oh my! That's not why Marcus got.
That is Al Davis's.
It's about his daughter, and it's about.
Come on, man.
We're going to talk about this in a different show.
That's a different show.
Make Marcus Allen, when you make the leading rusher in the NFL a fullback just to spite him because he's on contract, we'll talk about that on a different show. But
you had Big Bo. You had Big Bo. That's why.
We'll talk about that in a different show. We'll talk about that in a different show.
All I know is Bo ran over your Seahawks how many times, so just stop it, Chris.
He ran over. Well, Bo ran over everybody, man.
That's because Bo knows.
I was putting together. What's funny about that? I'll mention this real quick before I get back to the subject. I was looking at some baseball stuff, some stats, and looking at some swing differences for my fantasy stuff. And when you put on YouTube anything that has to do with a subject, you get like 30 things that are of the subject but different. It said 12 best throws, outfield throws in baseball history, and like 3 of them were Bo.
Oh yeah.
And we forget just how amazing he was.
You never forget. You never forget how great Bo was until you actually watch him on 30 for 30, and you see exactly the men that came out there and said that man could do so many things. His college coaches, and this was also the guy that said, "When you screw me over, I'll screw you back," and that's what he did to Tampa Bay. And they wasted their draft pick by picking him, and he said, "I ain't going there. You guys messed me up in my college era. Forget it." And who comes a knocking? Mr. Al Davis says, "Hey, Davis, play part-time? Yeah. No problem. You come play part-time." And look what happened.
That has nothing to do with sidelining the best quick-footed running back and putting him as a fullback for 4 years.
But let me share this with you. No. Let me share this with you. Any guy, if the best player available becomes available, you're going to go after him. And Al Davis was that guy. If the best player is out there, he's going to go after him. Now, he didn't want to trade Marcus Allen because there was no benefit in him trading Marcus Allen. But I do agree with you that I think that some of those decisions went beyond football. However, I don't know that if I'm Al Davis. Let me rephrase this. If I'm Al Davis and Bo Jackson is available and he wants to come play for me, I'm going to have 2 dynamic backs.
Exactly. Here's a teaser. Here's a teaser for another show. We'll let you guys. How about this? For the few people that do get to listen to this, and we'll refer back to this. I'm going to leave this up. I'm going to leave this recorded for a long time. You talked about the 30 for 30 on Bo Jackson. Watch the 30 for 30 on Marcus Allen. Watch what he did in 1983. And I also the top running back in the league, and Al Davis hated him. Wouldn't talk to him. You're trying to tell me a late 20s rushing leader in the NFL, Super Bowl MVP. You couldn't have traded him.
Of course, he could have.
It was better to put him at fullback and not let him get out of the building. I understand picking Bo, but he stuck it in his eye. And we all know that. So real quick, let's go. Because if I get on Raiders, then you guys are going to take too long. And I promise this is going to be a short show. So talking
Next.
about, but I do want to talk about that one time. We have a special on that because we have a lot of dead time in the off season, and all three of us seem to have an opinion on that. So I think that's going to be a great conversation for a Thursday in the future. So real quick, Coach Christopher, we'll go back. We'll start your way again. Talking about the modern athlete or the modern organization and all these great coaches who've been able to control media, control their players, and create loyalty in the past. Why will the Rams, who have probably the most gunpowder, so to speak, to use a metaphor, in personalities under one building, why would that team be able to? And I'm not coming at you confrontationally, like I don't think you can.
Absolutely.
I'm coming at you as someone who knows the team. Explain to me why. Is it the youth, whatever it is? So go ahead, and then Shayne, take it from there, please.
I think the answer is coaching. Wade Phillips has figured out the mental approach to getting the best, and this is what I love about reading Coach Shayne's articles, because Wade understands, Mr. Phillips, I should say, the son of Bum, understands how to tap into the mental aspect of the guy. I'm not trying to control the guy. I'm not trying to manage the guy. I want him to be free to be the best athlete he can be. And for an athlete like Akeem Talib to sit here and say, listen, the best I've ever been coached, the best I've ever been played is when I was with the Broncos and Wade Phillips was my coach. So I think that, and then you look at Coach McVay, who has been brought up in football all of his life. You think about his pedigree, who he studied under. I'm sure he picked up on some of the mental games, and today's millennial athlete is a little bit different than the guys that, like myself or maybe Coach Shayne came up under. There's a little bit different of approach of a coach, and they have seemed to figure it out. And hopefully we should see that translate with the Rams this year, because that's my favorite team. But if it wasn't, you still got to look at the fact that Wade Phillips, he himself is like, I would call him like an athlete guru. He can tap into those monsters and get them to play within a system and play control. So, and you've seen it everywhere he's gone.
I like that. And so let's go to the mental coach after this, because I just want to touch on something you said. I think you wrap it up in one sentence, and I actually agree with you. Believe it or not, I think the mix of the old school guy that's done it, and we've talked about it a few times on the different shows, having a key, being a bad boy who sometimes, the best cop is that cop that, is right on the line, right? But as long as he's good with the guys ahead of him, or in the military, the guy, if he's good with the commander, then you can control him. If you let him go out crazy, then you're ripping off chains in the middle of Raider games, right?
Right.
But I think that mix of the two is why, which I think you put it perfectly. When you see that young head coach sitting there with his offense, just writing stuff down, and when that's happening, Bum has 100%. He can call timeouts. He can call plays. He can make the decision. He's the head coach. I think that was the smartest move he made. So mentally, coach, everything you've heard about that, and we're talking about these older coaches who are Hall of Famers losing control. Do you agree with our pick that this combination has a good chance to maybe keep control?
Well, no, and that's it exactly. I mean, look at old school is old school, and you're going to always bring that into the mix in some degree. The biggest thing right now is everybody's looking and saying, listen, you run the same speed, you lift the same weights, you can move the same way, but what's going to make you better than that guy that's across from you? Well, it's simple. I'm the guy that's more disciplined. I'm also the guy that knows how to deal with things a lot better under the pressure. When your coach knows you like that, in and out, knows what gets you going, what gets you overzealous, which gets you into trouble, and that's the biggest thing, is these coaches know their players. So for Coach Phillips there to go and get guys that he wants, it's because he knows them well enough to say, I can control them, I can make them understand the system, and I believe in everything that they're going to do, and they believe in me, and that's the success we're going to have on the defense. Offensively, it's the same thing. Like you said, McVay comes in there and he's not screaming like a lunatic or doing anything crazy like that, but he is getting into you and saying, listen, you got to stay composed. You got to stay in control out there as that quarterback. You know, when you're talking to a young guy coming in like Goff, you're not talking to a Tom Brady. You're talking to a brand new rookie quarterback coming in there too. You know what I mean? And he's the type of guy that is going to mentor him in that way. And look at the success that they had from that. That's the type of chemistry that you need to have, and I think that's why the Rams are as successful as they're going to be in the next little while still.
And I think accountability is a big part of that too, because each one of these coaches, Wade Phillips, Sean McVay, Coach Peterson, I can't think of the Philadelphia Eagles coach right now, but when something goes wrong, these guys don't point players out and say, "Oh, if Cooper hadn't have dropped the ball at this point, if he wouldn't have done this, then we would have won the game." They take the approach. Listen, I didn't do a good enough job of preparing my players to win, and
exactly.
I need to go back and do that. And when a player sees, and I know you can relate to this, Coach Shayne, when a player sees that the coach has their back to that degree, then that player will play balls out for that coach.
He's going to stop at nothing. He's going to stop at nothing for that coach and for that organization when he knows that coaches and the rest of that team have their backs like that. And that's the success. And that is a successful team. And that's a successful coaching staff. And that's something you not only are proud of, but you want to be part of it. And that's why I think it's drawing players to that. And that's something we're forgetting about is if I'm a guy of free agency, you know, I'm looking and going, you know, these coaches really feel for their players. They're not just in it for themselves. They're in it for the success of the team, but they're also in it for their players. That's where I'm going to start going for.
And when the players start to do the recruiting for you, because they are telling people, hey, this is a place you want to play.
Exactly.
This is a place where the coaches care about you. Like I was watching, soon as Dez got released, the first thing that you see is Todd Gurley on doing a little FaceTime clip or whatever it was. I can't think what it was, saying, "Hey, Dez, you want to play? Come here."
Exactly.
You know. And then when James Harrison retired, you got guys saying, "Hey, James, you might want to. If you got one more year, you might want to come over here." You know, and that's the thing that you pick up when players realize that the place that you're at is a player-friendly place. And the coaches have your back. Again, Coach Shayne, he will play until he has no fingertips.
Exactly.
Tyrann Mathieu's on every piece of media in the country, being like, "Yo, Dez, you don't even have to leave Texas.
Yeah,
come join me with the new stud, you Fuller and Nuke, as a two receiver set. They go, no, we got this." And that's something. I'll take it back to my home side. That's something that we had in Seattle for a long time. Is it was one of the most popular places where people wanted to play. It was a winning atmosphere. You saw how they reacted even in preseason games. They all had each other's back. But what I would say
but the truth is they wanted to play for Pete.
Yeah, they wanted to play for Pete, but
they wanted to play for Pete.
What I want to get to, and I'm gonna let you guys give a quick 1 or 2 minute. Well, take your time, but I want to get to the last subject before we get off. Is I think that Pete and the owner who said, we'll back you anything, politically, whatever's going on, we have your back. We want you to be the best you. And when they were winning, and when it was them against the world, and they were the youngest guys, and everyone was against them, they took care of their guys. Everyone wanted to play there, but the winning aspect was a part of it. And then when it got a little bit too down the line, it started to get some egos and losing. I think what you see now is Pete says, "Hey, you know what? I believe in the culture that I'm trying to build more than I do in a person." So they cut everything from the top. I think what you see in the Rams right now is they're in that special window. But if when those big name players start to kind of go down and have problems, and you don't believe in me like you used to, I know you drafted me number 6 and you let me start, but now I'm a superstar. And once that gets to that point, it's a hard thing, but it's interesting to see that arc. And I think that's one of the things that Pop and and Belichick have done is they've been able to take that arc and then bounce it up and keep that arc on the winning side and by cutting people, and now they're going down. So you guys are in that window. So, I mean, is there really a team in any sport that can go losing and still keep that culture? Quick answer from both of you. If you want to take it a little more, especially Shayne, with the mental side, let me know. Why don't we start with Coach Christopher, and then we'll go to Shayne.
Well, before I tap into that, is it possible? Well, yes, you can always find the Cowboys lose every year, and they don't lose fans. The Cowboys fans still feel like we still got a chance. They could be 5-10 going into the last game, and they'll try to figure out mathematically how they can still make the playoffs somehow. So
I'm talking more about the players, though, not the fans. No. The Cubs sell out every year.
No. Well, listen what I'm saying, and that's where I'm going to. The Cubs sell out every year as well, and they don't win. So it's not the issue. It's not the issue of the winning culture. It is the issue of the culture that that's best promoted, that's best advertised, if you would. And so, but the danger in that is when teams have a reputation of winning and players they become comfortable and sometimes can start taking off because they believe, and then this is no knock, but like you look at Shaquille O'Neal when he was with the Lakers, he had a reputation of winning, and then he said, well, I know I don't have to work out in the off season. I can come in the season out of shape because I still got Kobe, I still got Rick Fox, I still got these guys, and these guys are saying, wait a minute, you need to come in camp in shape and not play yourself into shape. So again, the winning starts to can become a danger in some aspects. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh well, yeah. There's no question about that. Look, when we're winning and you're doing it very comfortably and you take it for granted. That's what it comes down to. You're taking winning for granted, and unless you're that type of an athlete and player that says no, I don't take it for granted because I got to work hard every time in the off season, during the season, and I got to play my butt off, whether it's 82 games or whether it's a 17-week season or something like that. Okay, those are the guys that want it the most. I mean, you always hear about some players that go off that I've worked with too that said, you know what, Shayne, I will play this game for free because I love it. I'm not out there for the big paychecks like all these other guys are. And I look at these guys and I go, you do mean that. And I really, really do think, and I hope the best for you when you do get a contract because you're playing your balls out there. And that's the biggest thing. You know what I mean? These guys are just playing for the love of the game. But when you look at some teams, look at Buffalo Bills last year. I mean, they made it to the playoffs just by the skim. And that's a team that been losing. Heck, they benched their starting quarterback for a guy that comes in and throws 5 picks right off the hop. You know what I mean? Exactly.
But see, so I want to hear you. So see, I think that's the reverse. They've been losing, but I think the reason they played so hard is because they got together because they started to see the light at the end of the tunnel and they were winning and thought they could get to the playoffs.
Yeah, well, but could you imagine if they kept playing?
That's just losing.
Yeah, but if you're playing, what if they kept that backup quarterback though? What if you kept that backup quarterback in there?
Well, you got to realize.
So that's the question.
You got to realize.
They have played as hard. When you're building a quarterback would have stayed in. I'm sorry, Coach. I want Shayne to answer this, and then you jump in. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, here, you know what?
Quick question: would they have played as hard if they would have kept Tyrod out and put that backup in and lost the last 10 games? Would they have played the same way and been as happy and as proud to be a Buffalo Bill as they were to shock the world and make the playoffs?
I would say some of them would be.
Get that right there.
Some of them would be. There's no question about that. Okay, but you're going to have the ones that are going to give up. I mean, you got to be realistic and say, okay,
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but again, the guys that are going in there, and this is where your leaders step up and say, look you could have went for that ball if it was just overthrown by an extra yard. You could have made that catch. You could have made that jump. Just because we're not in the playoffs, come on, man. And that's the biggest thing. And you're going to get it in that locker room. Trust me. I know it. I've been in there, and I know what it's like. So this is my thing is that if you got enough of those guys in there to say, no, we're out till the end of the game, till the end of the season, that's the type of players I want to play for.
And Coach, I've been on teams to where, before we got there wasn't a culture of winning. And there was a spell of bad teams, but each year we got a 2, 3, 4 better players, and then next thing you know, 3 years, 4 years down the road, now we're starting to compete because these players that are just hungry, Buffalo is a place that won't get a lot of athletes because who really wants to go to Buffalo as a free agent? Who really wants to go there and play in those conditions as a free agent?
Exactly.
So that's number one. The market has a lot to do with the type of athletes that you get. And then number two, when I went to Winnipeg, it was easy for me to make the team because nobody really wanted to go way up there in the cold and play.
Exactly.
So it was really easy. So those are the things, Coach, that come into play with when you talk about certain markets. But
you just proved my point. So what about when Buffalo was winning? Everyone wanted to play in the Bills.
You know what? Hold on about that one there, Chris. I mean, look.
I don't know about that.
Look at these guys that have been there, say, for 5, maybe 7 years. They're thrilled to death because they're finally getting a chance at not only playoffs, but you're also getting another paycheck too. You understand?
I'm talking about the '90s. I'm talking about Jim Kelly days. I'm talking about when they won the AFC 4 years in a row.
Yeah,
people were okay with living up in BFE, New York, and playing with the Bills because they're part of something that's going to go down in history.
Yeah, you went down in history of losing 4 Super Bowls.
Only Buffalo wants to pay me.
You're not known as anything but losing 4. That's what you know.
No, you know what? See,
come on, man.
It's the fun thing about it being the first show is this is totally freestyle. Everybody, like usually we have like plans. This is totally freestyle. So I want to go around.
But we didn't.
What? Okay.
So
let me ask you. Let me ask you. I mean, we have a plan. But it's gone out the window now because you guys are wrong. So.
Oh man.
So answer me a question. Answer me this. Answer me this.
What is more? I'm going
to put this up to you guys.
Oh jeez.
Winning the AFC 4 years in a row, or a team that wins a Super Bowl once and then kind of in playoffs, out the playoffs, in the playoffs, out the playoffs. Which is more impressive to you? We'll go Coach Christopher, Coach Shayne. 1 minute apiece, and then we're on.
What's most impressive to me? Winning it.
Yeah.
That's
really the one win.
Going to in 4 years in a row and losing is not impressive. In fact, it's the opposite of impressive. It's like, well, what the hell?
It'll never be done again.
How do you know?
When a conference 4 years in a row.
Let's put it this. Yeah,
I'm not going to argue with that one.
I hear you. all I know is I want to just win the one. Give me my one Super Bowl. Exactly.
I don't want to go to the big dance 4 times.
I don't want to go there.
So here's where, since I'm the host, I'm ending this conversation. Here's where I'm going to flip your argument back on you guys. Because real athletes hate losing more than they like winning.
That's like getting married. That's like you're about to get married and you show up to the church 4 years in a row, and each year a different bride runs off.
Exactly.
After a while, I don't want to go.
No, but you're talking about something different. So Shayne, I'll let you get the last word on this one. First of all, I think I spoke over you, so I'm glad you got that analogy in. But no one's ever going to do it again, and it's very impressive. But what you guys are coming at this from, how would you feel about it? Because it would be heartbreaking. I mean, I'm sure like Buffalo Bills from that era wake up.
Hey,
wake up like sleeping. But the point being is, yes, it would be devastating to the heart. But what you guys are saying is what I'm saying. You guys are saying that losing those 4 times when you're the best team in the league, basically, is going to the soul, which is what I'm saying about those locker rooms.
Well, that's the thing. You're not the best in the league if you lose 4 times in a row.
Yeah, that's my point.
Well, they were a better team once.
Okay, but here's the thing. Let's look at. I'll give you one. I'll give you one more then from last year. New Orleans Saints are kicking themselves in the ass for losing to Minneapolis on a fluke Hail Mary play. Right?
They have
but that's one play.
That's one play. That's one play. Just like the kicker missing a field goal for the Super Bowl champs too. You know. I mean, like I said,
I guess that's true. But in a 16-13 game, I don't know. We're getting semantics now. So let's get to something that we wanted to talk about today, and that is Dez. and what's going on. So they just cut, just a little bit of intrigue before we get into the draft. They just cut Brandon Marshall, which Brandon Marshall's already checked out. I don't think he signs anywhere. I think he just goes on to Showtime and sticks with that. And he's now, in the media. He's already all set up, and I think he's fine. I think he's going to go on doing the work that he should be doing, which I think is very important work, which is bringing attention to people that have, troubles mentally or chemically,
right,
that have been ostracized in society as violent or problematic, and bringing attention to that particular problem that, hey, it's not people's fault. And by keeping them in a place where they feel like, they can't cope and they're not part of society, and putting them in jail or in hospitals, it's a problem. So I want to give a big shout out to everything that he's done and how he's turned his life around, how much attention he's brought onto a big problem. But this show is not about that, unless you guys want to talk about that. But does this really, with Dez coming in a year where the Giants know they're not going to win anything, is this just a PR slam dunk to hire Dez on a 1 year prove it? Why don't we go the other way? Why don't we go Shayne first and we'll go to Coach Christopher?
Well, you know what? Look at it. If they've freed up the cap space, and if they think that they can get something out of Dez and they can get Odell on a contract deal as well here, the biggest thing is going to come to this is that, can they then say, hey, you know what? Let's give up our draft pick and move down a little bit, and let's see what else we can bring in too. Maybe free up some more cash, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it is a possibility. I don't think any one of us can say that Dez going to any one of these teams is not a possibility unless the cap is that bad. I think Dez can pick and choose where he wants to go and make his own little rules. And if he feels that he can do something there at the Giants that's going to also go back and play the Cowboys, et cetera, maybe that's what he chooses.
Well, again, where you said wherever he goes, it's an upgrade. And I'm going to just be that frank, because you have to respect him. You can't just single cover him, and you're going to have to cheat that safety over and to play him, because at any point in time he's capable, and we've seen that happen. And with that, it's going to demand a certain dollar amount. Now, Dez is going to have opportunity to pick where he wants. Now, if it happens to be New York, let's just say New York they just freed up $5 million, and there's still the draft, and there's some quality guys in the draft, and I'm not sure that receiver is probably the place that the Giants need to draft. I think they have some different needs other than receiver, and so with that being said, an opportunity for them to acquire Dez at a later time might be better. But they have bigger needs. I think they need a running game, obviously. And I think that they also need to upgrade. I mean, they did do some defensive upgrades. They got Alec Ogletree now at the middle linebacker over there, and that'll help them. But they still need, and Peter Paul,
yes,
yeah, him. But he's not.
He's
the
gone
same
to Tampa.
that he was. Yeah. So
No.
Neither of you can say his name. Pierre Paul. What did you call him? What did you call him off there?
Shayne? He called him Peter Paul. I was trying to say
Peter Paul. Peter St. Paul. As they call him, Peter St. The guy with the fireworks, Peter St. Paul.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing: is if you look at the draft, if we just quickly look at the draft for the Giants here, the way they can pick. I mean, look at if they want to go defense, I guarantee they're going to take that guy Bradley Chubb on the D line. But if they want to go with a running game, why would they not take Barkley? I mean, that's the thing. So unless they dangle that carrot and say, okay, because we always heard Buffalo is interested in moving up too. So what kind of carrot's being dangled here? You know what I mean? They're going to get something. But my thing is this, is that they still need an old line to protect Manning.
Exactly. Well, they signed, who did they sign? But they signed, I think, slot at old tackle. So
they did some work on the O-line. But Manning's not going anywhere. He probably won't finish the season.
But that was the point I'm making. And I don't know that Saquon Barkley will be around, because if I'm the Browns, I'm taking the best player available, and to me, the best player in the draft is Barkley by far. And you still have another pick at 4, and I'm not quite sure if Sam Darnold will be there, I don't think the Giants will take Sam Darnold. And who has the number 3 pick? I don't think they'll go after Sam Darnold
The
either.
Jets.
So
Jets
the
got the
Jets,
number 3.
well,
But
the
Jets are going to
Jets,
take Baker Mayfield anyways. I guarantee they're going to take Mayfield.
That's the best quarterback. That's the best quarterback in the draft.
You know, that guy's got the best accuracy, that son of a gun.
Yeah. But I don't think he's the best quarterback in the draft. No, let me not rephrase that. Like I said, I don't think he's the best prepared.
Let's start that conversation since I promised you guys that for our inaugural show it's only going to be 30 minutes. Now we're at 45. So I see, this is why, folks, this is going to be a great show, is because these coaches got so much knowledge, so much to say, and they got to put up with my nonsense too. So why don't we just hit that real quick? You know, a quarterback or two, who's going to be what in the draft. So why don't you explain why Baker's not the best, who is the best, and if you want to, who's going to be a bust?
It's hard to say who will be a bust. Now, let's get back to the initial question as to why I don't feel Baker Mayfield is a bad choice of a quarterback. I'm just saying I don't think he's the best quarterback that you can plug into a pro system right now and they have a better chance of succeeding. I think Lamar Jackson, I don't think he's the best quarterback out there, but I think the system that they ran at Louisville is a pro system that will translate into the pros a little bit easier than what Oklahoma does and even what UCLA does. Sam Darnold could be one, and at the same time, the kid from Wyoming, they have more of a pro style system. So I think one of those two quarterbacks would probably be one of the ones whose college systems will translate better into the pros.
And that's exactly what we got to keep in mind here is all these quarterbacks are coming from different styles, different systems. You got to look and say, can you and will you be able to fit into our system? And this is where I'm saying is that there are some teams where, this guy can come in here. And I think for Mayfield to go to the Jets, I think could work for him, right? I think Josh Allen from Wyoming, I think, he could be the number 1 pick for Cleveland. I think he could fit into to what they want to do. To me, the biggest downer is going to be Josh Rosen, because this is a kid that really, he doesn't even care if he does want to play or not play, who's going to pick him, whatever. I see that kid's stock just keep dropping and dropping because he is doing it to himself more than anything. You know what I mean? He's got some talent. I'll give him credit on that. But he is still this type of a kid who's just saying, hey, whoever picks me. I just go with the flow type of attitude like that. Whereas you got Baker Mayfield saying, hey, I'll be Tom Brady's backup if you want to pick me. I'll be anybody's backup. You know what I mean? Just let me play and let me do my thing. And then Lamar Jackson, I do think you're absolutely correct. I think he could be that sleeper. He's like we said before, that Dak Prescott there. I mean, he's the type of guy that just – he came out of, 4th round, whatever it is, and just light it up. And I think Lamar could do the same thing. I really do. I think whoever gets him, I think if they've got a good coach to help guide him into the league a little bit, this kid's going to do really, really well. I really think so. So I think it's going to be an interesting first few picks. But again, it's going to be the system and the needs. That's what it's going to get down to if you're going to spend this kind of money.
Right.
So I want to leave it. We're going to change subjects real quick. The coaches have blessed me with letting me go on to another subject. So before we get on to this, I'll let you guys know tomorrow in the mess around we have Coach John, another coach from Carolina. He's going to join us on the mess around, and the Knucklehead Podcast Network is kind of coming into our own with our base people, and these are two of the best. So hopefully, if I don't run them away, if I don't chase them off, these two are going to be pillars in what we're doing here. So I want to leave you guys with a couple of thoughts. I listen to way too much football stuff, way too much fantasy stuff, and there's a couple of things that really stand out to me about the quarterbacks in this draft. And after that, we're going to go to another subject very quickly. But the kid from Wyoming, you have. The pro is the arm is ridiculous and that he can be taught, especially in a system where he can stand behind someone, i.e. Tyrod Taylor, right? The bad part is that he doesn't have the the accuracy you should have. And people say, well, he didn't have a great receiving core, small school, you never know, all that argument. The thing that alarms me is that he went to junior college his first year as a player, and he had a 48% accuracy rate in JC. That's what scares me a bit. I think that people are writing the Wentz comparison because of the fact that they had the same coach. People are looking at Flacco coming out of Delaware with the big arm. For me, I think that's one of the biggest home run or strikeout type of picks. I also don't like the kid from USC as much as I like Rosen and Mayfield because of the fact that he has turnover problems, because he likes to just try and fire something in there. Maybe you guys can correct me, but I don't think that's something you can get out of somebody.
I don't think Rosen's not going to be anything even close to a high caliber.
Jim Morris screwed that kid's career.
And all I know is Rosen's going to sink, and he keeps sinking his stock more and more and more. That's all I know.
Well, he doesn't.
Well, basically, you guys are all saying that Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry, Coach. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, you got to think his background, his family upbringing. He doesn't really need football. Okay, his family has enough money to where he can do something else. I think he was going to be either a tennis pro or a football player, and he decided to play football. So let me just say this, Coach Shayne. I hear you from that aspect of the hunger aspect. He doesn't need the money and but he's playing football because he loves to play the game. And obviously, if he doesn't have to play, then why is he playing? So
that's going to become the question in this draft.
Yeah. And I think some of the things that he has said in ways that he has spoken out, may hurt his draft because, basically of the things you said. A lot of teams don't like the outspoken guy, especially the guy that has his own wealth. And, when you have wealth, you have a big voice.
And you got to understand that too. And you've been in the locker room as well, is that when you start getting a rookie like that coming in, you're gonna take off a lot of veterans and a lot of second year players too, saying, "Hold on here, kid. Your feet aren't even wet." You know what I mean? So what are you talking about?
And that's the thing that I was gonna say, that and where you hit the nail on the head with that one, Coach. Because now it's the locker room. Now it's the veterans who have to block for you, and most of those guys are usually old linemen. Is those veterans that have to listen to this and have to know what kind of person you are. And that's what you have to show and prove. They want to know, do you have the same hunger to play football that we do?
And the other thing you're saying and the other thing you're saying about that too is he going to pass the buck onto that O-line if he can't get the job done too? And that's my concern when it comes to a lot of these young guys like that, is that, the
they
system isn't for me.
Right.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So what about can you take accountability for your actions because you made the bad plays? And this is what I don't think he can do that. I really don't think he can at this particular time, because I just don't see him having that type of a heart to want to do it. That's all I'm saying on this kid.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So something about next week. We are 9 days away? California Public School. One of those things for 7 days in a week. We're really close. I think we'll probably have a few shows prior to that. Since we're short on time, I want to give you guys something to think about, and something that we're going to revisit next week on the show. Is I think Rosen got a bad rap because of Mora, and because of the fact that at the combine there was a article written on how, when they asked him, "Are you ready? Do you feel that you're prepared for this?" And the kid said, "No, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to come out here every day. I'm going to train and I'm going to do my best." And some people took that as, oh, he doesn't really want it. And I think in the offseason, I can hear you, Shayne. I understand you're coming in next. So apparently we are going to stay on the subject. So that's what the coaches show is about, because you got people that know more than me where I bring up the questions. But you have, I think in the offseason, you have writers that really skew things a bit. But the kid said that, and that's a problem. It is what it is. Shayne can go on to that. Now, if we are going to stay on the subject, then after you hit Rosen, I want you to hit one other subject, and I guess we'll pass it back to Coach Christopher. Do you think the kid from Ohio is tainted because of Manziel, even though he doesn't have any of the problems. He's not the same thing, but people have that shadow and that stink of Manziel from the past. He's not as cocky, but those little bits of shorter, little bit, competitive, cocky baseball player, thrower has tainted his stock. So if you answer those two, we'll let Coach Christopher go, because I can hear, if you guys can't hear it at home, I can hear Shayne going, trying to jump in and talk about it. So go ahead, Shayne.
No, you know what? Look at, we have to look at it and say, and this is the biggest thing, is as fans that haven't been in the game are just waiting for their team to do well and pick somebody that they know can help their team, etc. You got to look at what these coaches have to go through, and the GMs and everybody like that, of picking the right player to fit into their system and in that locker room too. That's what it's going to come down to in the bottom line. So yes, you got a lot of kids here that are going to be in the top 10, like we said. It's a matter of, though, do I really want to take a chance with somebody that I'm not exactly sure about? Or do I want to take my chance on somebody that I think has said the right things to me and is demonstrating the right things? Now, look at, just because a kid played at the same school as Manziel, and Manziel got the dirty laundry and everything like that, the kid shows
not
some
school, just he looks like him.
you
He's
play
the same kid. He's not going to Vegas every weekend. He's not the same kid, but everyone's like, "Oh, this is another Manziel." That's what the writers are putting out.
Yeah, well, sure, because like I said, he plays the role in that way of show me the money type of attitude. But the thing is, the kid's also said all the right things too, though, when it has come to not only the media, but also to the coaches of the teams as well. He's told them all what they want to hear and more. So, he's making a better case for himself of going higher up in the draft, while others are doing the opposite of saying things and putting themselves lower. That's what it's coming down to. Now, he's also, when they look at him and say, you know what, this kid can actually throw the bloody ball too better than any one of them. So, he's got that going for him, into which he's said, listen, I'm stepping up my game because I want this bad. And I think that's what's going to help him in Mayfield. I think that's really what's going to help him in the long run, is he wants it bad.
Coach Taylor.
Listen, I think the difference, one of the things that you'll see the common thing with Josh Rosen and with Johnny Manziel was the economic background of these guys. And when you have the money and the opportunity to be able to have the freedoms and the luxuries that you're able to have when you have those kind of resources behind you, then sometimes you develop a different mindset, and the priority of things aren't as important to you. In other words, for a guy that's coming out of East Broke, Texas, going into the league, he's hungry. He didn't have access to those resources. He's going to play a little bit different versus a Josh Rosen or a Johnny Manziel who had those resources available to him that they can go do other things. It is a different mindset when you approach sports, and now it's about pure passion. And you can't really judge what a person does based on what another person does. Everybody's their own individual, but you got to look at where these guys are coming from and the backgrounds of these guys before you psychologically start saying, oh, this guy's going to be another Johnny Manziel. Well, if he doesn't have those resources like that and is not doing it now, then you're probably not going to get much of that. So it's kind of hard to say, but we look forward to seeing it. I'm really hoping. I believe that tangibly, Josh can really help a team, and so can. What is the name of that school that dude is from? Anyway,
Wyoming.
I really think, they have the tangibles to really help a team. They really some gifted athletes, but again, it's the mind game. It is. Are you mentally prepared for this? And I think that was the best answer he could have given when he said, "No, I'm not ready for this. I don't have a clue." He doesn't. And that's the reality. He doesn't have a clue going into it. So I think it's a good thing. So we should be cool.
I think what we found is the fact that this show has – maybe we're going to focus on just a couple of topics because we're way over time, and it's a good thing. So we're not going to get to some of the things we want to get to. I'm going to say one thing in closing, besides the fact that I'm super excited to see what this show is going to bring, that I think the three of us and a lot of the people in the public love to see a hungry story. And, a guy like Manziel, he had that punchable face with his money signs and, his dad's rich. That's one thing. But I'd say the richest quarterback coming out of college in the last 20-something years was Eli Manning. So it doesn't always track that some kid, just because, he has something and we perceive it, is going to be that kind
but
of
he still had
take it
those
for granted.
Yeah, but he still had that humble upbringing that and football was bred into that family from the dad on down, even from the granddad down, I should say. So
I'd say we got a topic for the next show. So I know Mr. Shayne, I think he's 20 minutes over what he promised us he would be on this show. So we apologize, Shayne. And hey, folks, if you hear this, I think you just realized the fact that this is your new favorite show. And can you imagine when Shayne and Coach Christopher start bringing in other people and other coaches into the show? So this network, this whole thing is brand spanking new. We love you. We appreciate you. We're all doing our own thing. Please write into us at knuckleheadpods@gmail.com, knuckleheadpods@gmail.com. You can find in the description here all the places to reach us. Call Shayne, call Coach Christopher, and tell them they need to stick on this network, and this is what they got to do because they are awesome together. And we're going to talk about, what's going to make a good quarterback, because by the time our next show comes around in 7 days, we are going to be just before the draft. So there's a lot to talk about. And we had about 5 or 6 subjects, and we got to 3 of them because these guys have so much to say. So thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. And proud to be on the air with you.
Absolutely. Have a great evening.
All right. Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.